Community Conversations, a program bringing together friends and neighbors to talk about issues affecting how we live, work, play, grow up, and grow old in Madison County.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rubin, and I want to welcome you to Community Conversations, a program bringing together friends and neighbors to talk about issues that affect how we live, work, grow up, and grow old in Madison County. With local elections coming up, I thought this might be a good time to ask some of the candidates campaigning for your vote what makes them want to run for political office. More than just their stand on the issues, what motivates them to run. The more informed we are about their background, qualifications, and interest, the more informed decision we can make. I'm pleased to have with me today Berea Mayor Steve Connolly, Berea City Councilman Bruce Fraley, Berea businessman and candidate for Mayor Charles Arnold, Richmond Commissioner and Mayor Pro Tem Robert Blythe, and in spirit, if not in flesh, Richmond Commissioner Jim Newby. My thanks to all of you for taking the time to be on the show today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we get started, I'd like our listeners to know that the boxing gloves have been left outside the door. These gentlemen have all agreed to speak solely to their background qualifications and motivations to run for elective office, rather than debate their specific stand on the issues. There are plenty of other forums and opportunities for them to address that. So in the interest of time, let's get started. And I'd like to start with Berea Mayor Steve Connolly. Mr. Connolly, you've been elected office in Berea since 1996, is it?
Elected in 96, started serving on the Berea City Council in 1997.
Okay. And you became mayor of Berea from 2003, correct?
Elected 2002, began serving 2003.
Okay. What initially motivated you to run for elected office? And are those same motivators what has kept you running today?
I ran because my father, Irvin Connolly, had served 18 years on the city council. And as I was growing up, regrettably, I paid too little attention to his public service. But by the time that I was an adult with a family of my own, having returned to Berea, his example prompted me to begin trying to serve on city council.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So he was on there 18 years, and he retired before you took office on city council? Or while you took office?
My father was elected in 1968. He resigned in 1986 in protest because Berea had only begun employing a city administrator in 1979, Gene Stinchcomb. And at that time, in 1968, there was Mr. Stinchcomb was fired. My father took exception to that move and resigned.
Okay. Strong stand. You're originally from Berea. You went to school at Berea College, EKU, and received a law degree from UK in 1981. And you continue to practice law in Berea today. I also understand when we talked off air that you received a master's degree in history as well. What would you say in the past has best prepared you to be mayor of Berea?
Well, I would parenthetically add to that description of my life was the fact that I left Berea after my freshman year at Berea Foundation and ended up serving out 3 years at a prep school in New Hampshire and then a year at a college in Massachusetts before I returned to Berea College and graduated. That life-changing experience of being in New England with a very different set of people who I grew up with really opened my eyes to a lot of possibilities, and that, and then my service in the Army for 3 years, although I just served briefly overseas, spent most of my time with the 101st at Fort Campbell, caused me to see beyond myself and the importance of coordinated, organized, planned action. And I wanted to try to participate in that. With the background of having seen my father and known what kind of plans and programs the city had been working to achieve throughout the decades of his service.
Okay. You also told me before we went on air that when you were in the military, you studied Arabic as a language?
Yes. When I was in prep school, I was struck by the fact that one of the fellows who worked in the serving line, the food service, could speak Korean to some of our students. And I found out that he learned that while in the Army, going to Army language school. And so when I graduated from college and really was casting about what should I do, I thought I would also like to go to language school. And thinking I knew more than the military, I figured I wouldn't have to sign up for 4 years if I didn't pick my own language. I figured, well, I'm going to get Russian, and that'll be very useful, Russian or Chinese. But I let them assign me, and they assigned me to Egyptian, Arabic.
Very good. Well, let me ask you this. Obviously, you're the most tenured elected official among the group here. What is the best part, or what has been the best part of being mayor for you?
I'd say the reason why I chose not to run for city council but to run for mayor was because it tended to give me a seat at the table, and by being mayor, in Berea, we have a city administrator who really does the day-to-day work, but the mayor has significant policy input, and if you're interested in any particular aspect of city government, you can find out about it, and you can have hopefully constructive input. And that fact of being able to reach out more and be more involved really attracted me to that job.
Okay. What would you say is the least favorite part of being mayor?
Oh, probably presiding at city council meetings.
Okay. And I'll ask you this. What's one bit of advice that you would give to your opponents if one of them should succeed you in office?
Well, I wouldn't presume to give advice, but if requested, I would say trust the employees that we have. Local government is about providing services. The people who really get the job done in Berea are our 145 employees. We have superb employees. They do good work. Support them, listen to them, give them a long leash, because they can really take you a long way.
Okay, very good. Let me move on to Bruce. We're going to get back, and actually we'll have an open conversation in a little bit about some issues. But Bruce, you're also a native to Berea, correct?
I am a native Berea, and I grew up on Christmas Ridge Road. Christmas
Ridge Road, okay. You also were an honors graduate at Berea Community School.
Correct.
And cum laude at EKU.
That's correct.
Okay. And you had a dual major in political science and sociology.
Yes.
You've had a career in public service spanning 34 years with the Social Security Administration in Richmond, and the past 27 as district manager, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You retired in September 2017 and decided to run for Berea City Council. Elected to the position in 2016, you're now turning your sights to the office of mayor. So I'm going to ask you similar questions as is given to the mayor. What has motivated you to run for elective office?
Well, I have a similar situation. My family has a history in public service and in holding office in the city of Berea. My paternal grandfather was Bill Fennell. Mr. Fennell was the first chairman of the Industrial Development Corporation in Berea. He was instrumental in helping diversify Berea's economy by bringing in large employers, jobs with benefits, and jobs that paid well. He served in that role for over 20 years and brought in many of the industries that you see today. Some of them have changed. For instance, Goodyear Aerospace on Glades Road is now Stemco. It's changed hands several times, but I can remember his commitment to public service. And as a young person, I think that the people that you know and love, when you see the love that they have for your city, it makes you feel like you want to do something for the greater good as well. And I've carried that throughout my life. He also served 2 terms on the Berea City Council, and he served with Mayor Conley's father for a while, I believe. And also served on the Planning Commission in Berea for 2 terms and was chair, I think, for 1 at least. Also, my parents were very involved in the community. They didn't hold public office, but my father was very interested in helping people succeed in business, and helping others is just a part of our family nature. In terms of seeking the office of mayor in the city of Berea, I was taught from an early age that if you feel a calling, you should follow your calling. And I feel called to serve as the 5th mayor of Berea.
Very nice, very nice. Well, I'll ask you again, what is your background, and what in your background do you feel might make you uniquely qualified to run for office?
I held a leadership role with my career with the Social Security Administration from a young age. I was 28 years old when I became a district manager and served in that role until I retired. Leading people at the federal level, you learn that you have people that are very different, and you learn how to take people's strengths and accentuate those strengths, and how to take those weaknesses and try to improve them. You also learn how to teach people to work as a team. One thing that I've found throughout my career, and I hope to take to city government, is that we are much stronger when we work together as a team than we are as separately as individuals. I am a believer. My management style was continuous improvement, and the basic element of continuous improvement is no matter how good we are, we can always be better, and we have to continue to try to achieve the next level and be better for the community or the people we serve. In that role for the 34 years with the Social Security Administration, I served the public. As a city council member, I served the public. And I've been really proud to be able to serve the citizens of my hometown as a city council member, and I hope that I'm able to do that as mayor.
Okay. Bruce, you talk about your time with the Social Security Administration and the management style that you've developed through that experience. What do you think the general public's view of Social Security Administration is?
Well, in the local community, I think it's very good. When I came in, some of the people that I've talked to said that they had waiting times. They might wait 2 or 3 hours to be seen by someone. By the time that I left, our waiting times were 5 minutes. I've helped a couple of people that are actually in this room, and I think that our office in Richmond, I'm no longer there, of course, but the tradition has continued, that they have a tradition of excellence in public service. Also, with my management style, courtesy is king. One thing that I taught my staff, and I think is important to anybody that we touched with the Social Security Administration, is what people will remember is how nice were you to them, were you nice to them, and how long did they have to wait? And that's the approach that we took. We wanted to make sure that we treated other people the way we want to be treated, and to treat everybody with courtesy, dignity, and respect. That helped the office gain an outstanding reputation in the community. So I think as far as local service goes, the office here in Richmond that I managed for several years services not only Madison, but Jackson, Estill, Rockcastle, and Powell County. And I think that our reputation within that wider community was nothing less than outstanding.
Nice. Has that been noticed by other districts within Social Security?
Yes, we were recognized as the Field Office of the Year out of all 27 offices in Kentucky in 2016. And 2 different times during my tenure in Richmond, we were nominated to be the best office in the Atlanta region, which is in the 8 southeastern states, over 250 offices. So it was an honor just to be nominated for those and to actually receive the award once for the best office in the state of Kentucky.
Very nice. I just want to touch on one thing because I think it's important in terms of your ability to work with people. Usually within a bureaucracy or within government in general, the wheels move slow. In some instances, it's top-down government rather than bottom-up. It sounds like you were making change at the local level. What kind of cooperation or understanding or discourse took place with your superiors in making those changes?
I was fortunate that we had an area director that gave us a broad latitude and delegated a lot of responsibility to us at the local level. And as long as you're succeeding, people are pretty much going to let you do what you need to do, because we were making the state look good. We were making the Social Security Administration look good at the area level, statewide, and even at the national level. The other thing that I would mention with that is we had a management association, and I was president of the Atlanta Region Social Security Management Association for 2 terms. And that represented over 650 field office managers in the southeastern United States, managers, supervisors, assistant managers. So not only did we continue that service and try to instill that sense of service excellence locally, I also did that throughout the Atlanta region, 8 southeastern states. And in that role, I also served nationally, where we had a national management association, and I represented our region there. So my reach was a little farther than just local.
Okay, very nice. One last question. What bit of advice might you give to anyone seeking to run for elective office?
I think that anyone, the people I've already talked to that are running for elected office now, I think really have the best interest of their community at heart. That's the one thing that impresses me about public servants. People who want to serve their community. They're not perfect, and I would advise somebody to don't expect to be perfect. Don't expect to be widely accepted by everybody, but have a thick skin and do the very best that you can for your community. Okay. Because no matter what, if you're elected to an office, whether it's mayor, city council, or a county office, you are a servant of the public. You're no better than anybody else, and you're no worse. You're just willing to step up and do the work of the public.
I like the term thick skin. You have to have a thick skin.
I have it.
Okay. Charles, let me turn to you if I can.
Yes, sir.
You were born in Lexington. You grew
That's
up
correct.
In Beattyville?
I grew up in Beattyville, yes.
And graduated from Lee County High School.
That's correct.
You received your undergraduate degree from UK in '83 and entered graduate school at UK in '84. What did you major?
I majored in design, and I had a double major with design and architecture. I did not finish the architecture degree.
Okay. You also were enrolled in the Air Force ROTC, correct?
That is correct. I enrolled in Air Force ROTC as a graduate student.
Okay. And at the time, you were commissioned as an active duty second lieutenant?
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
In '86?
Yes.
Spent 7 years in the Air Force and reached the rank of captain.
That's correct.
Okay. It also says here you had combat and command level experience. Where was that? And
that would have been with the 44th Strategic Missile Wing in Ellsworth Air Force Base, Rapid City, South Dakota.
Okay. Now, did you actually, you told me before we got on the air, there's a difference between having combat experience and combat level experience.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We think of combat as being hand-to-hand or one-on-one or patrolling. Mm-hmm. I was a missile launch officer, mm-hmm. and I manned a launch control center deep underground, mm-hmm. With some of the most powerful weapons you ever can imagine.
Okay. Wow. I can only imagine, and yet I have this image in my mind of how many silos now have been turned into homes for people.
That is correct.
Yes, I know. Okay, you moved your family to Berea in 1992 and opened the first of what, now 3 subways in Berea?
Yes, first of 3 subways in Berea. Yes.
But 5 overall?
5 overall.
Okay, and you're in where?
We are in Berea, Stanford, and Corbin, Kentucky.
In Corbin, okay. So it's clear to me from looking at it, you've been a businessman for quite some time.
Yes, sir.
I know you've had a number of restaurants, sold some, and now
I have.
Okay. You also said you were involved in other multi-state businesses. What kind of?
Rental business.
Rental?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Would you tell me what some of those other businesses, aside from rental? No, let me pass on that. Let me say, I understand you bought the Dinner Bell Restaurant, which is a landmark in Berea, back in 2015.
That's correct.
Okay. And I know you're in the process of renovating it. How does it feel to own something that has some historical significance in the city?
It was a privilege.
Yeah.
Dinner Bell has a long history. It was built by 2 couples. Mm-hmm. purchased after a year by Bob and Velwer Stewart, and Bob and Velwer had the restaurant for almost 30 years, and Marilyn and I bought that in 2015 from them, and we knew that we were buying an iconic restaurant, and so what we did was we just wanted to remodel it, make it look good, keep the same folks on staff, keep the same cooks. Miss Dora's been cooking there for years and years and years. I think she's up now to almost 30 years. Carol McCollum, 22 years. So we kept everybody, we upgraded all the equipment, and the community has welcomed us with open arms.
Nice, nice. And how many employees would you say you manage?
Currently in Berea, the last time I counted, we have 68 employees in Berea.
Okay. Okay, but over time with all your other businesses?
Over time, it's hard to put a finger on it, but my wife and I sat down at the table a couple months ago, and we believe that we've had in the neighborhood of 10,000 employees.
Very nice. Okay. So as a businessman, what qualities do you believe you bring to the position of mayor that some of your opponents may lack?
Well, first of all, I think the gentleman to my left are just two incredible people. One of those folks that Mr. Fraley mentioned that he helped in this room was me. Okay, and I think a lot of both of these gentlemen. But when you graduate from college and you're wet behind the ears, and then you get those bars put on your shoulder, and the next thing you know, the military looks at you and they tell you you're an adult. Here, manage this. Here, manage that. And the next thing you know, you've got all these people staring at you for leadership. And it takes a few months, but then all of a sudden you start getting in the groove of how to manage people. And I think one of the most remarkable things that I've ever been able to do is that when you look at the number of people that work for us in the restaurant business, I have people that's been with me in excess of 25 years. To me, that's remarkable. That's fast food. They're dedicated, and that says maybe I'm doing a few things right myself.
Okay. Very nice, very nice. Those qualities in your background, what's been motivating factors in you running for office?
The decision to run for office was actually made when I was 17 years old. I didn't know that I was going to run for mayor of Berea, but I knew I was going to run for office. I had three incredible people that were mentoring me. A gentleman named Gary Pack was my principal. Rose Gabbard was the librarian, and Lily Kincaid was my political and history professor. And those three folks looked at this little kid, and that skinny little kid that couldn't play baseball, but he could read, and they kept telling me, go to college, go to college, go to college. And so from about the 8th grade, I knew that University of Kentucky was where I was headed.
Okay.
And he doesn't know it, but Kyle Macy and I, we won every championship in my mind. But I just love my years that I was at UK, and I learned a lot. And then when I was commissioned as second lieutenant, it was one of the biggest days of my life.
Very nice, very nice. We're going to take a break now, and when we come back, I would like to spend some time with Reverend Blythe, and then we're going to get into a broader discussion if we can. So, thank you. Welcome back. You're listening to Community Conversations on Y92.5 and 103.5 WKXO FM. I'm Jeff Rubin, and I'm speaking with Berea Mayor Steve Connolly, Berea City Councilman Bruce Fraley, Berea businessman and candidate for Mayor Charles Arnold, Richmond Commissioner and Mayor Pro Tem Robert Blythe, and in spirit, if not in flesh, Richmond Commissioner Jim Newby. We're talking about the background and motivation of the people who run for office, in this case, the mayor of Berea and Richmond. Before the break, I was talking with Charles Arnold, and now that we're back, I want to turn our attention to Robert Blythe, Richmond City Commissioner. Mr. Blythe, you're a native of Richmond.
That's correct.
You also are a pastor at the First Baptist Church here in Richmond, and this is a position you've held since when?
Since 1981, December, so about 37 years come December of this year.
Okay, and you currently serve as Commissioner and Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Richmond, and you've held that position since when?
I'm currently serving as Commissioner. I've been there for 8 terms, 16 years come the end of this year. Mayor Pro Tem 6 years, but not currently serving in that capacity.
Okay. You have quite a background. Your undergraduate degree is in mathematics education from EKU. You have a Master's of Divinity and Doctor of Divinity in Pastoral Studies from Southern Baptist Theological Seminary and Covington Theological Schools. You taught mathematics and French. I don't know where the French got in there.
Hobby. It was a hobby.
You are a lecturer in the Department of Mathematics and Statistics, at EKU. And let's see, and in church, you've held positions as treasurer, secretary, and president of the Kentucky chapter of General Associations of Baptists. Okay. In your community work, you're a member of local Kiwanis, Rotary, and the Chamber of Commerce. Do you still serve as president of Richmond, Madison County NAACP?
Yes, till the end of this year, yes.
You served on board of directors of the Kentucky League of Cities, which I found interesting. You're a member of the Chemical Weapons Destruction Citizens Advisory Board for Chemical Weapons Destruction at the Bluegrass Army Depot. You've twice received an award from Richmond Chamber of Commerce for your community service, one in 1989 and 2004. And last but not least, you were the recipient of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Lifetime Achievement Award presented by the Office of Multicultural Affairs of Eastern Kentucky.
Yes.
Okay. And in your spare time?
In my spare time.
Okay.
You read my mind.
With such a background in the pastoral field, what made you think to enter politics?
Several things. One, you notice on that resume there's a lot of opportunity for service, community service. And I really do believe, and perhaps my colleagues here do also, that you really must sense, one must sense a calling to do that kind of thing. A Central Kentucky mayor with whom I've shared in a program on this past Sunday said, if you're looking to be loved, don't run for mayor. But there's this need, I think, on the part of many, and I'm included, for the opportunity to serve. So it's just a part of me. And I've enjoyed the rewards, certainly. My mother also advised something that you mentioned a moment ago. My mother said, you're going to have to develop a tough skin. And I've been trying for the past many years to do that. But just the need to serve, the opportunities have presented themselves. And I ask myself sometimes when I say somebody needs to do this. Right. And then you stop and you ask, well, then if not you, then who?
Yes,
so
that's right. That's right.
I've enjoyed these years.
Okay. How much of your work and experience has been transferable to your current position? You've talked a little bit about that, but some of your leadership roles, I guess.
Yes, and a lot of the community service groups or groups such as American Red Cross, Daniel Boone Chapter, Faith Task Force of Madison, all of those have made me aware of our Richmond City and Madison County community. And I believe in serving as a commissioner and hopefully as mayor. Those things are important because I can then sense where there are needs that the city, perhaps through government, can assist with. I think you've got to know the people and across the board.
Yeah.
There are so many opportunities that I've been able to take advantage of to learn about what happens in this community. What is it that makes it work? What is it that other people do that provides opportunity for others in our community? So those places of service have really been necessary,
sure,
I think, for me to decide that I would want to run for mayor.
Okay. I'm curious to know, how do you separate church and state in your mind and in your politics?
I like that question because, first of all, there's a word that constantly beats on my door, and that word is integrity. I insist upon being who I am. Whenever the opportunity presents itself and someone asks me something similar to that, I always mention, and I've been elected 8 times for 8 terms, and I say, now, you knew who I was when you elected me. The other thing, back when I was first elected in 2002, I was interviewed by a reporter, a columnist from a Lexington paper, and she asked me, and it really caught me off guard, she asked, why would a man of God want to jump into a barrel of snakes? I hesitated for a moment, but I said, why should I allow everyone else. I am a voter and a taxpayer. What would exclude me from being involved directly, hands-on, with the laws, the ordinances that affect me on a daily basis? Why should I not be allowed, just because I am a preacher, a Christian, why should I not be allowed to influence what is the mechanism that governs us? Right. So I feel and I think the real issue is, folks, this do I sense any conflict, I think, is what many folks would be wondering. And no, there was, for example, I have to give you this, from several years ago when the city of Richmond was considering extending bar hours. And of course, there are folks that said, well, you're a Baptist preacher, surely you don't want people drinking more. But that really wasn't the issue. I received a phone call one day from one of my former high school students. And this young man said to me, Mr. Blythe, would you please vote yes to extend the bar hours? And I asked him why. He said, because I go to church, and our church on weekends has service late at night. He said, I want to be able to drive my family home before the bars let out. And there's all that, he said, drunken traffic on the highway. When I voted that night, I simply told that story to the audience and to the rest of the commission. I said, and in the interest of public safety, because I'd also been contacted by state police, Richmond Police, Sheriff's Department, who've said, Commissioner, if you can find it in yourself to do it, please vote yes, because we'll hope that folks won't leave Richmond drunk at midnight to drive to Lexington for one additional hour that they can drink over there. So for me, it was a matter of public safety, had nothing to do with my religion or not. And I learned that a lot of the matters are really not church-state issues. They're, many of them, are common sense issues. And when we think, now, did I want folks drinking more? No, because I've seen what it does to families, etc. But in addition to that ordinance that extended the bar hours, we also passed what was called a responsible beverage server ordinance, which says to every bartender, no matter what time it is, if you see that one of your clients or customers has had enough, if you serve them more, you're legally responsible. So it allowed folks to stay in the bar a little longer without being, as was the custom here, being shoved out on the sidewalks at 11:59, where there were fights resulting in all that kind of thing. I mean, there really were. But it allowed folks to have a little bit more time to wander out, so to speak, over a period of time, rather than being thrown out at midnight. So those are the issues that I looked at.
Now, the ruling that the bartender was responsible as well was a safety issue.
Yes.
And so you took an issue that perception might have been, well, we want to give people more time to drink, and this. No, it was all about. So you turned it on its ear.
Yes.
But for the right reasons.
Yes.
So, very nice. Very nice.
Even law enforcement asked me to support that.
Okay. Again, I ask you, what's one bit of advice that you would give to someone thinking of entering local politics today?
One of the first things, and let me go back to this being a minister, first thing I would say is you've got to love people. I mean, you've got to love people and be concerned about their well-being. I know that folks enter politics for many reasons, but as for me, you've got to love people and sense that that's where you belong. Now, again, folks run for many reasons, but you got to know that's where you belong.
Okay. The reason I asked that question of all the candidates is because there was a study that I came across not that long ago where they asked 4,000 high school and college students, would they think of running for elective office? And 89% of them said absolutely not. Okay? We have this perception today that it is not a noble profession to run for. And yet we have 4 quality people here who certainly can do a good job, either one of you. And 5 when I talk about Mr. Newby. But yet we have such a low opinion of elected officials. How do we change that?
One of the things that I consider an insult is when someone refers to me, not you, but when in general someone refers to me as a politician. And I tell them I'm not a politician. I understand I'm in the bunch that runs for office,
Right.
but I tell them I'm not a politician. I'm a public servant, and I'm an elected official. Now, politician is connotative, and I don't like it because I did not enter this endeavor for what folks see connotatively in that word politician. It's said in a snidely whiplash fashion. It's it's one of those ugly things with a sneer. But politics, and this one of the reasons I have to say this. One of the reasons that I am running also this time is because I want, for example, the young people and the children of my church, of my community, to know that if you want to serve, this door is open to you.
Very good, very good. Okay, I want to give Jim Newby some time here, and I'm going to read a little bit of his comments, and then I'm going to open it up to a general question. Jim was born and raised in Richmond, Kentucky. He attended Madison Central High School. He graduated in 1986 and joined the Army. He was active for a year and a half before returning to Kentucky and attending EKU as part of the ROTC Return to School program. He graduated EKU in 1991 with a degree in criminal justice and an associate degree in psychology. While attending school, he started his career, as many people know, or I don't know if many people know, as a professional wrestler, a profession he continued to participate in for the next 12 years. Ending his wrestling career in 2002, Jim moved back to Richmond and joined the Richmond Fire Department, where he remained for the next 10 years until he ran for city commissioner, beating out 17 other candidates. He is now completing his third term in office. Now, Jim describes himself as a people person. This is a term we've heard from all the candidates, and believes his experience as a wrestler uniquely prepared him for his current role in local government. His wrestling career has taken him to 27 different countries on 4 continents. He said that experience has exposed him to many different cultures and people from all walks of life. He compares his former role as a wrestler to that of a politician in that both must possess the ability to enrapture large crowds while clutching a microphone, be camera savvy, able to think on their feet, and balance public and private persona. The ability to emotionally connect with people, he adds, is paramount to the success of any politician and has been paramount to the success he has enjoyed both as a wrestler and city commissioner. Newby has been a Freemason with Lodge number 25 in Richmond for the past 8+ years. He says he's never been a desk guy and sees his role as hands-on. He makes it a point to visit with each department of city government on a weekly basis and rides with members of the police and fire department when he can to get a better feel for their work, show his appreciation for what they do, and stay more attuned to the issues on the street. He says he's become a champion of Hope's Wings, work in addressing domestic violence, and considers himself and his work to be an extension of the people. I asked him about what it means to be a good leader, and I'm going to ask you guys as well, but his comments were, you must earn the respect of the people by who they are rather than by the title they may hold. And he defines a leader as the glue that brings people together. He sees leadership style as hands-on, but also prides himself as being able to listen as well as speak. A good leader, he says, must be honest, open, transparent in their decisions, and be able to communicate effectively with their fellow elected officials and the public at large. I'm sure what he's saying are things that you would all agree with. I looked up what Webster defines as a definition of leadership. Basically, it comes down to the capacity to lead. Okay? At the most fundamental level, a leader is someone who motivates, inspires, and guides others toward pre-established goals. In business, this can mean directing workers and colleagues with a strategy to meet the company's needs. Put even more simply, the leader is the inspiration and direction of the action. He or she is the person in the group that possesses the combination of personality and leadership skills that make others want to follow his or her direction. A few years back, Forbes magazine asked some of the top people in business what they thought about leadership. Their answers follow. Peter Drucker, The only definition of a leader is someone who has followers. Warren Bennis, leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. Bill Gates, as we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. And John Maxwell says, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So I ask you guys, what do you think of the qualities of a good leader? And how would you define leadership? Mr. Mayor?
Doris Kearns Goodwin has recently written a book about leadership, and she focuses on 4 presidents who were president during tumultuous times: Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, LBJ. I haven't completed reading it, but it's interesting that she talks about, drawing from their history, that all of them, for different reasons, had driving ambition. And they all had, in different ways, a real concern for others, concern beyond themselves for others. And they were each able to have a vision for outcomes, for desired outcomes. There are likely many other categories of good leadership that are important and that would fit, but those are some, I think, that do make sense, where you're thinking beyond yourself, where you have a real drive, and where you're able to think about what are good outcomes. And we can relate easily back to our own communities with those kind of things in mind.
Okay. I'm conscious of our time, and I want to make sure that we get to everybody. So I'm going to ask Bruce if you could say something. This is a question we could spend much more time on.
Certainly. Leadership, to be an effective leader, I think you have to be a clear communicator and be able to clearly define goals. What are your objectives as an organization? You have to be effective at building relationships, not only within your own team and the people that you lead, but also people outside. In city government, I think it's important to have relationships with our elected officials at the state level, with each other at the local level, and also with our county government and with the Richmond city government. I think that we have to realize that things that work good for the county also help Berea and Richmond, and that we need to help each other. As a leader, I think you have to be able to show people and those that you're trying to lead what's in it for them, because people want to be successful, and you have to show them and teach them how to be successful. You also have to trust your employees, trust the people that you're leading. You have to be willing to delegate. Trust your people, give them the responsibility, and you'll be surprised what they're able to do. And you also have to hold people accountable, and people need to understand that as a team, as a group, the group is accountable. And you always, always have to be consistent and fair with everything you do, or you cannot be an effective leader.
Very good. Thank you very much. Charles.
I certainly would agree with all of those responses. I think that an effective leader listens and evaluates, makes decisions quickly. And if you will allow me, I'll share a story with you that only my wife knows. In 1988, 27-year-old First Lieutenant was on duty on Christmas morning, and we worked in a very serious business. The signs on our fence said use of deadly force is authorized. And I got an alarm, and that was a common thing to do. I dispatched a security team that worked for me. They were heavily, heavily armed. And we expected to find a jackrabbit or a tumbleweed. But when they got there, we had 90 people standing on top of that missile. And this first lieutenant, after I picked myself up out of the floor, I ordered my men to stand down now. And I called a national security event and directed the U.S. Marshals to come and arrest all those people. But as a first lieutenant, I had the authority to end those people's lives that day. And I think you have to learn to react quickly. You have to be effective. You can't study a decision for months and months and months and months. You need to evaluate, make that decision quickly, and move forward.
Very good. And Mr. Blake?
Considering all that's been said, and I've even learned in listening, I think an effective leader is a person who has a vision and who has vision and a vision, but who can also communicate that vision in such a way that it encourages or even invites others to follow in accomplishing that vision, so that others will buy in. Those are the followers. I once heard someone say that a person who thinks he's a leader and has no followers is just a person out for a walk. But so communicate it in such a way that others will buy in, and above all, and I've heard it in so different ways here, and I agree, I concur, to respect others. The fact even that in our cities, our county, there are lots of citizens with good ideas, and they should be respected for the resource that they can be.
Very good, very good. Thank you all. I want to share a couple of quick things in a few minutes we have left. Some of the qualities that came out in the research, and you've touched on many of them: trustworthiness, enthusiasm, confidence, purposeful, calm, analytical, committed to excellence, a motivator, a good communicator, creative, positive attitude. And then I asked, great leaders are. What are the qualities, 5 qualities for a great leader? Flexible, able to communicate, have courage, tenacity, and patience, humility and presence, and be responsible for their actions. So if it comes down to it, those are the key core pieces of making a successful leader. With that, thank you very much for your time. We will also be viewing this show on WKON TV. It'll be later tonight or during this weekend, and I hope you'll join us and take a look at the show or invite your friends to join us too. So thank you all again.
Thank you.
Thank you.